Für heute, wir haben einen Film von der deutschen Wehrmacht Pioniere von Weltkrieg II. Okay, for translating today's film, we're going to have a film on World War II German Army engineers, or Pioniere. It took me a bit to find this. The information I have is not... I don't have all the information I would like for this film, but this is what I could find. Now, I have here laid out for the engineer squad as it was under doctrine, not necessarily what it was in the field in combat. Now, in 1938, the German engineer squad for infantry divisions, and this is from a Motorized Engineer Company. They're supposed to have 14 troops per squad. You had a squad leader who was equipped with a rifle, a machine gun team with a machine gunner, an assistant gunner who either had a rifle or a pistol, an ammunition bearer equipped with a rifle, and I suspect that ammunition bearer was also the squad's driver, but I can't find any specifics on that one. And there was 2 demolitions teams of 5 engineers each equipped with rifles. Now, also during this time period, early in the war, in the platoon, you would have 1 anti-tank rifle, which would be in one of the squads, and it would be in the hands of one of the riflemen. That anti-tank rifle would substitute his Mauser 98K. Now, later in the war, because of casualties and so forth, the number of the squad seemed to have dropped down on paper to between 12 to 13 troops. It's a squad leader who is now equipped with a submachine gun, usually an MP40, machine gun team with a machine gunner, assistant gunner who would have a rifle at that point, an ammunition bearer with a rifle, 2 demolitions teams with 4 engineers each equipped with rifles. Now, there was a change I came across that talked about there was 2 additional machine guns in the squad, and my guess would be that would be another MP40 or possibly a Sturmgewehr, an MP44, MP42. Now, through the war, they're supposed to have 3 squads per platoon, 3 platoons to the company. Now, something else that came across, German engineers were equipped with flamethrowers. Those were used for taking out bunkers. That flamethrower was on a team of about 5 engineers usually. I could not find where it was equipped in the company or in the platoons or the total numbers. I came across stuff saying that it looked like there was 2 flamethrowers, but it didn't really say if it was in the platoon or in the company. So that I'm not totally sure on. So your flamethrower team would have had 1, possibly 2 flamethrowers in it. Now, some on their training. The engineers typically first started out with a 16-week basic training, just like all other German troops. Then they went into their specifics. And in the Pionier recruits were taught barbed wire entanglements and fences, emplacing anti-tank and anti-personnel mines, constructing field fortifications, use of inflatable boats. There are plenty of films out there of the engineers having their own boats, which they would use to assault the other side of a water barrier like a bridge, secure that area, and then they would begin bridging. Where under US doctrine, it's typically infantry that does that. They were also trained in assembling pontoon and float bridges, erecting small timber bridges for light vehicles and troops. So you're talking light trucks. Think of along the lines of your Jeeps and Humvees, primarily. And also 2.5 ton trucks and below. Building corduroy roads, repairing roads and small bridges, use of hand and power tools, camouflage techniques, road reconnaissance, explosives and demolitions, breaching wire obstacles with explosives and also wire cutters. The German Army did have their own version of a Bangalore torpedo. I did come across that. Employing smoke to blind the enemy and screen the movements of the engineers during operations. Use of supporting weapons such as the machine guns and the flamethrowers during operations. And destroying bunkers with different types of explosive charges. Now those explosive charges would be shape charges like they used against Abe and Email at the beginning of the war. Pole charges. Also grenade bundles where they would take a single grenade and they would put 6 more around it. The heads of those grenades tied to the one. And they'd tie it with string and they would toss that into bunkers and fortifications and vehicles as an explosive charge. Now this is just another example of an engineer squad that could be employed. Something for you to consider about if you are organizing engineers. I thought the stuff they were trained on was very close to the U.S. military. There's a few things that are different that definitely I believe should be considered for militia engineers. And for that would be getting trained on the use in inflatable boats for assaults across water obstacles, assembling small timber bridges, and building corduroy roads. Those are not things that are taught to combat engineers anymore in modern militaries. You do see some use of inflatable boats, but not that much. And all bridging, at least in the U.S. military, is handled by combat bridge crewmen, which are in their own separate unit. They're not in combat engineer units. And road repair is not done by combat engineers, that's done by construction engineers. But the other things that they're taught, those are basic combat engineer tasks. So this would be an example at least for training. You know, how well should you train your engineers? So now for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and militia movements, always remember, Essayons.